Good Tuesday. Oh, I was going to say good Tuesday morning. It's actually Monday. Boy, am I a day ahead of myself today. But I hope everybody had an awesome possum weekend. We had a very drizzly, sleepy kind of weekend here, but very productive and very lovely. Hope everyone is doing well. As we're coming into the last few days of February, I wanted to wrap up and remind you of some of the issues February is noted for, but also remind you that although this is Spay Neuter month, it's Pet Dental Health month, it's Rescue a Rabbit month, I want you to keep those messages and share them with your friends for the other 11 months of the year, because although, you know, special events are designated at different times of the year, it doesn't mean that's the only time we think about them. It's time we're trying to create more awareness, but obviously we need to think about them 365 days a year. And one of those things, let's start off with Spay Neuter. Tomorrow is Spay Day USA. Hopefully a lot of pets that are of the right age and in good health will be getting spayed or neutered, because we do have more animals on this planet than we have forever homes for them. Basically, there's somewhere around 70 million stray dogs and cats living in the United States at any one time. And about 6 to 8 million of them enter a shelter every year. So, I mean, do the math. Where are the other the other 62 million animals living? If they're not in homes and they're not in shelters or rescues of any type, they're out there fending for themselves. And we all know that, you know, animals were obviously intended at one point in time to live in the wild, but that was before we created motor cars and super highways and took away a lot of their habitats and created all kinds of dangers and poisons that will end their lives. So it's important we, you know, do limit the pet overpopulation. I'm not saying the pet population, but the pet overpopulation, and you know, can care for these loving creatures. Now, of these 6 to 8 million dogs and cats that enter shelters every year, about 30% of the dogs are reclaimed. So those are the ones that actually had homes and somehow found their way into a shelter. So that means 70% of the dogs either are being euthanized or they're being adopted to other families and aren't with their, you know, previous homes. As far as cats entering shelters, only a tiny 2 to 5% of cats find their way back to their original families. It's just tragic. So besides being a conscientious pet parent and, you know, observing and protecting our pets, it's so important we have ID tags and up-to-date microchip information on them, like we talked about earlier this month as well. 5,500 dogs are euthanized every day in U.S. shelters. That comes to about 80,000 dogs and cats each week. People, this is just too much that's happening. We're not going to run out of dogs and cats if we start spaying and neutering, but it's the responsible thing to do. Personally, I do feel that many pets are getting spayed and neutered too early. Depending on where you live, there may be laws and they may have to be spayed and neutered at 3 months, but whatever time, you know, you do spay and neuter them, up until that point, it's really your responsibility to keep them healthy. And if a dog goes into heat, or a cat does, which can happen actually between 3 and 6 months of age, much earlier than us humans do, our animals reach sexual maturity. You just need to be responsible and keep them safe, not just from harm, but safe from mating, so that we don't perpetuate this problem. And what we also have to realize, for people that aren't so much into the animal world here, taxpayers are paying somewhere between $1 and $2 billion a year. That's billion, not million, $1 billion a year to shelter, euthanize, and then dispose of the animals that have been euthanized. So sometimes when we can't get other people in the heart, soul feeling about the animals, sometimes if we share the money, the financial, maybe they'll see the light. Hey, Scott, thanks for joining in. Good to see you, buddy. So the power is really with us. We need to say no to pet stores and to internet sales, and, you know, if they're selling puppy mill puppies. We need to educate against backyard breeders. Responsible breeders not only know their breed and do everything they can to perpetuate healthy dogs and cats, but they're the ones that really care about these animals. They stay in touch with the pets and their owners, and if for any point in time the person who adopts one of their puppies or kittens can't care for them any longer, a responsible breeder will take that puppy or that dog, it could be a senior dog at that point in time, will take him back and rehome him. So I just want to make sure everybody does know the difference, that, you know, responsible breeders are a good thing, backyard breeders are not. Hey, Deborah, nice to have you joining in today. Am I breaking up? I'll try to talk a little more clearly. So just, you know, be a responsible pet parent, spay, neuter, you know, find out when you have to do it for your municipality so that you are within the law. But if you can hold out till they're 6 months, 8 months, and you're keeping them unmated until then, it's often a very good thing if you could let it go a little bit longer. But I know sometimes our hands are tied with that, but those statistics are just mind-boggling. Now on to wrapping up Pet Dental Health Month. We've been talking about brushing those pearly whites and keeping them clean, because bacteria in the mouth can actually travel to all parts of the body. It can affect the heart valves, the kidneys, the liver, and so on. So it's just really an important thing to do. And nobody wants to, you know, kiss and smooch with their best friend if their breath is offensive. So it is important. Dogs have 42 teeth if they have them all. Cats have 30, and about 70% of all dogs and cats who are 2 years of age or older actually have some form, or some degree, I should say, of periodontal disease. So it is something that is often neglected, and it can really cause all types of issues. Obviously, when their mouth is sore, they may not eat and get the proper nutrition. They may be swallowing big chunks, or may be prone to choking or intestinal blockages, or they just may not be getting the nutrition and can be losing weight. You may see that also show up in their skin and coat because they're not getting the good nutrients. So just, you know, really brush. We talked about this a little bit before. You may have to find the right pet toothpaste, never human toothpaste, because it contains detergent and our dogs and cats won't spit. But try out the different flavors, put them on your finger or one of those little finger brushes, and just let them taste it initially so they get used to that. Let them get used to your finger in their mouth. With kitties, I do recommend having the brush on a stick just for a little bit of protection, and also because their mouths are tinier to get into. And remember, the mouth doesn't even have to be open. It can be closed, and you lift the gum over here, and you start back here with the molars and the premolars. Make sure you get to the canine, and then all the incisors across the front, the other canine, premolars, and molars back here, and then pull down the bottom lip and do the same. Dogs and cats just don't seem to collect tartar like we do on the inside. So, I mean, you can get in on the inside of the teeth, but because their tongues are more abrasive, they generally take a pretty good care of getting rid of the plaque there. So if we just go all the way around both outer edges of the upper and lower jaw, we're doing a good thing. And, you know, it can be good fun bonding time. You're giving the pet, you know, this toothpaste that actually tastes yummy to them. So it can be enjoyable, and it can really make a difference in just their, not just their appearance, but in their health and your ability to want to get close and smoochy with them. If you notice that they're drooling, if there's any bleeding coming from the mouth, obviously any swelling or redness, it's so important you get them to veterinary care. We talked a little bit earlier in the month about anesthesia free versus going to the veterinarian for a teeth cleaning. I just always, my recommendation is if your pet is having to go in and go under anesthesia for something else, go ahead and couple that with having the teeth cleaned at the same time, so that you aren't doing the anesthesia specifically for the teeth. But do remember, if you have a blood test, which you should have done before any time your pet goes under anesthesia, is if you find out the liver and the kidney functions are, you know, up there in the good healthy ranges, the pet should not have any problem eliminating the anesthesia from his body afterwards. So that's an important thing to know. Do realize that anesthesia free dental hygienists can be fabulous, and I know a few that truly are. But do your research, because all of the certification isn't equal across the country. It's actually, there really isn't a good certification program for it. So some people may not be as adept, and you certainly want anybody that's dealing with your pet's mouth to know what they're doing, because if they don't polish the teeth afterwards, they can leave ridges that more bacteria clings to. If there's already a lot of bacteria in your pet's mouth and they knock it loose, it's very likely your pet could swallow that and then very much be in need of antibiotics. So my recommendation for anesthesia-free, unless you've really done your research and have somebody you trust implicitly, is to really only give it a go if it's one of the clinics that many veterinarians offer. Sometimes once a quarter or so, veterinarians will bring in an anesthesia-free, like mobile clinic to have there. And it's just a good idea because they're there on the campus, so to speak, with the veterinarian, and can administer any medications if needed, if the tooth comes loose. Because, you know, some pets that haven't had good dental care, the tartar may be the only thing actually holding that tooth still in place. And when the cleaning, the scaling, or sometimes they use the high-powered water pit type cleaning mechanisms, those might actually knock the tooth loose. So just make sure you do your best to, you know, brush at least every other day, if not every day. But sometimes if we do every other day, we don't remember. And at the very least, just take something like the gauze or a clean cloth, and at night before bed, wipe the teeth at the gum line. If, you know, if the toothbrushing isn't working, that's, you know, the next best thing. But using the pet-specific toothpaste with the enzymes really can help eliminate the plaque. And remember, plaque is the bacteria, the saliva, and the food from the mouth. And if you don't get that off within the 48 hours, it does turn to tartar. There's brownish, yellow, nasty stains that get smellier and harder over time, and that not only inflame the gums, but literally pull the gum away from the tooth microscopically at first. But even at that point, the bacteria in the mouth can now get between the tooth and the gum and travel through the bloodstream and, you know, cause harm to the other organs. So even though we're wrapping up here at the end of Pet Dental Health Month, remember at the rest of the 11 months of the year to keep those pets' teeth clean. Now, one thing we haven't had a chance to touch on yet for February, so I want to make sure we get it in today, is that February is also Adopt a Rescued Rabbit Month. And I was very lucky, actually, last week when I went to the Capitol, I got to meet the Georgia House Rabbit Society and saw what great work they're doing with our little rescued Lagomorph friends. I'm going to actually be broadcasting my Facebook Live segment from there on March 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So you'll get to see all the little bunnies, because that's obviously a very critical time to talk about rabbits just before Easter, and to encourage everybody you know to give a stuffed rabbit or a chocolate rabbit to their friends, because everybody thinks, you know, giving somebody a rabbit or a little chick for Easter is such a cute idea, but they are living creatures and they need somebody that's going to provide them with a forever home. So we'll be talking about that at the end of March. But in the meantime, I just want you to consider if a rabbit might be a good pet for you. Obviously, you have to take into consideration what other animals you have in your household and if they will get along. Rabbits are considered prey animals, and because of that, sometimes even in a household with small children, rabbits are not a good idea. Because, you know, kids will run and chase the rabbit around the house, and they can actually really stress a rabbit out, because, you know, rabbits in the wild have to worry about hawks and coyotes, and just about everything can come after a rabbit. So, you know, they need a little bit of a quieter lifestyle, since they are considered prey and they see themselves as prey of just about every larger creature. Also, I firmly believe that rabbits need to be kept indoors. I mean, at the very least, in a really secure hutch outside that's, you know, climate controlled. But again, because they are prey animals, they, you know, don't want to be left to the you know, the devices of other animals coming after them. And also, rabbits do not do well once it gets over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think pretty much in every part of the U.S., it's going to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit come late spring or early summer on many days. So that's just a really, really important consideration. And when we're having a pet, we want him to be part of the family. Now, depending on the individual rabbit, a lot of rabbits don't like to be held much. I mean, they're used to having their little paws on the ground, and they may come over and snuggle with you or get in your lap if you're on the floor, but they don't, you know, necessarily like to be held. There are some exceptions to the rule, so don't, you know, quote me on that with every single rabbit. Hey, Bill, nice to have you join in today. Long time no see. Bill and I worked at Channel 35 in Orlando, Florida many, many moons ago. So it's great to see him joining in today. But yes, our rabbits, you know, many of them need homes, but do realize if for any reason you ever have a rabbit and can no longer keep him, the proper thing is to find a good rescue to take him to be rehomed. You know, I'm all about when you adopt an animal, you adopt him for the life of that animal. It's not like a pair of shoes or a record album. Oh God, I just dated myself with that. Do they still call them record albums? I guess not. CDs or whatever. But it's not like something you can just, you know, get tired of and get another. We do adopt for life, but I do realize sometimes something happens. But what I just want to explain is that you can never turn a domesticated rabbit loose in the wild and think he's going to be able to fend for himself. The rabbits that are pets mostly originated actually in Europe, but they, you know, we have domesticated them over the years. There's these beautiful long-haired Angoras and all kinds of different fluffy bunnies and all different colors and sizes. Those are not the rabbits you see in the wild that generally are more a brown, possibly with a cottontail, that actually blend into the scenery. You know, our domesticated rabbits do not know how to fend for themselves. They do not know how to hide from predators. They do not know even which plants. Their parents didn't teach them which plants are safe to eat and which not. So please don't ever turn a domesticated rabbit loose. If for some reason you can't take care of them, find places like I was just mentioning, like the Georgia House Rabbit Society or Bunny Love in California that I used to visit. Those kind of places that really know rabbits and can take care of them. What else do I want to tell you about? Well, do know that rabbits have a totally different digestive system than cats and dogs and us humans as well. And that system needs to be working all the time. Generally, Timothy hay or some type of hay would be fed for them as their main source of fiber and diet. They really need that, about 80%. When you're trying to fatten up a bunny or just for a few additional nutrients, you may be giving the pellets. But the hay is really, really what they need. Alfalfa can be a great hay too, but that's generally more for packing on the pounds, and it may not be a regular part of the diet. Because of that, if you ever notice an animal isn't eating and isn't going to the bathroom, you know, and we're talking rabbits, but this kind of goes into the horse category, which we'll talk about at another time too. It's just really, really imperative that you watch them, monitor them, try to get them eating, and possibly even get veterinary care. Rabbits can get what's called GI stasis, gastrointestinal stasis, and that's when there's a blockage or things stop moving, and it's very critical. It's somewhat related to colic in horses and bloat in dogs, so that's just something to always be aware of. Rabbits, like dogs are canines and like cats are felines, rabbits are lagomorphs, and they're not rodents like our pocket pets and our hamsters and our guinea pigs and all those other little creatures. Hey Wendy, hey Paul, thanks for joining in. So they are lagomorphs, and what differentiates them from the rodent world is actually two different fun trivia facts if any of you guys are ever on Jeopardy. One is that they have two sets of incisors. So there's a row of teeth behind the front teeth there. If you were to look up into the jaw, you'll see like the little peg-shaped tooth behind, and these teeth constantly grow. So that's why you're always seeing things like people say like toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls to put in their cages because they need things to chew on. Sometimes willow baskets will be in there, and you'll be amazed that they'll chew them down to nothing in just a day or two. You do need to be careful about litter boxes with rabbits to make sure it's not something they're going to chew on, because obviously that's not something you want to disappear and have chewed on. The other thing besides the second set of incisors that makes rabbits lagomorphs is, I hope you're not all enjoying your morning coffee or cereal right now, but it is that rabbits have a second type of poop. Actually, some people refer to it as night poop, and it's little tiny pieces that are a little greasy and kind of stuck together. Actually remind me of blackberries. Now you guys will never eat blackberries again, but it's a softer poop, and it usually occurs at night, and the rabbits actually re-ingest it because it still has nutrients in it. So those are the two things in particular that distinguish lagomorphs from the rodent world. Like I said, just in case you're ever on Jeopardy at some point in time. And what you may even find people doing at homes or in rescue rescues is, surprisingly, they'll actually put the hay that the rabbits are going to be eating and consuming on top of their litter in the litter box, because very often the consumption and the defecation happens in the same place. We do not use clay litter for rabbits like we do for kitty cats. It's usually much more of a shred. I worry a little bit about pine. It depends on the certain kinds of rabbits, but it's more of a paper shred. And just like with the kitties, it needs to be cleaned daily. If you have a rabbit in a cage, hopefully there's a tray underneath where a lot of that will drop through. But also, if you have a bunny in a cage, you should have something like ceramic tiles in part of the cage as well, though, so that their little paws aren't on the little rails of the cage all the time, irritating their paws, that they have a nice smooth surface to lay on. Again, I mentioned to you that rabbits don't do well over 80 degrees, so you do need to keep them cool. If you have them out on a porch or anything at any time, or what they often do at rescues is they'll take things like liter bottles or milk jugs and fill them with ice or fill them with water and let them freeze, and put those along in the bunny cages just to keep them nice and cool, so that the bunnies have something cool to lean against. You can have a misting system to keep bunnies cool too. That's a great thing to go with. What else did I want to say? Well, I was talking about their need to chew, because the teeth keep growing, and you can certainly go on the internet and look at pictures, but rabbits that don't have things to chew on can suffer from what's called malocclusion, where the teeth actually get really long and they start to go into the bottom jaw. So that's a critical thing. A vet then has to literally clip the teeth. So we wouldn't want that to happen. So, monitor your bunnies, do head to tail checkups just like you would with your canine or feline friends, and certainly feed them some greens as well. You can throw them a banana every now and then, and the thing is, bananas are actually considered like the Twinkies of the bunny world, because they do have a lot of sugar, so not a whole lot of bananas. And the same thing, I know Bugs was always chewing on a carrot in those Bugs Bunny cartoons, but the greens are really much more beneficial. A carrot every now and then is a great thing, but both bananas and carrots, and this applies to our dogs too, although those can be great treats, they do have a lot of natural sugar, so you just want to make sure you're not packing on the pounds with those. If you do have a rabbit in your care, like I was mentioning, very often they don't like to be held, but there are times you're going to hold them and you just have to hold those little back feet really well so that the bunny doesn't bound out of your arms. Rabbits have actually very fragile bones, and they can break their backs as well as their legs if they leap from a cage or from your arms. So it's just an important thing that you do. Keep good hold of your bunny, love your bunny, spend time with them. Don't always leave them in a cage. Just like a dog or cat, you don't want them always in a cage. You want them to be part of the family, so maybe you'll have an X-pen that you can set up in your living room or rec room or someplace where you can actually hop around and get exercise. I'm not going to tell you to put your bunny in a harness and take him for a walk outside. I mean, that could certainly happen under great supervision, but if a hawk or an eagle or some other bird of prey were come by, even if he's on a leash, that would not be a good picture. So just obviously keep him safe, but do let him get the exercise, do let them get time with the family, and learn about the species in particular. The last thing I want to close on this with, and it really always applies to dogs and cats, but it really can be even more critical with rabbits, is that if you have one as a best pal and you think he's lonely and want to get another one, don't just go get another one and put them in the cage together and see how they get along. There's actually a bonding process that needs to take place with rabbits. Rabbits can be very mean to each other. They will rip each other's ears off. Or you could just be that lucky one where you put two bunnies together that absolutely adore each other and there's no problem. But a lot of the rabbit specific rescues have a person on staff, or at least a specialized volunteer that is very good at the bonding process, because they may need to bond rabbits that are there, and they also can help you learn how to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there. If somebody isn't super bunny savvy, that you need to know that if you adopt two rabbits together that are already bonded, pause up. But if not, you need to do this properly so that a big accident doesn't take place. Well, everybody, I know it's your Monday. You have a bazillion things to do, so I thank you for tuning in to chat with me today. Remember, Spay Neuter USA Day tomorrow, but that's something we need to educate our friends about 365 days a year, just so that we don't have that many homeless pets, and that the ones that are here can really benefit from humans who care about them. Remember to keep your pet's teeth clean, because that bacteria can travel to other organs of the body and make them sick. So it's really important we pay attention to that. And also, if you're so inclined to try a different type of pet, or maybe you don't have a pet and you want to start with one that might need a little bit less walking and going around and doing different things with, a rabbit might be the perfect best friend. But do take into consideration any other animals you may have in the house, how noisy your place is. And like I said, although it can be wonderful for a child to learn to love a rabbit or any pet, realize that rabbits are animals that are preyed upon, and even a small child running around the house after the rabbit can be frightening to the rabbit. So take all those things into consideration before you adopt. And no matter what species it is you choose to adopt, make sure you've done your research and make a good decision for the life of that animal. Have an awesome possum week, everybody. And on Thursday at 3, I will be back here. And since it is March 1st, on the 1st of every month, Haiku gets his heartworm pill. So we're going to talk about heartworms, because especially since I relocated from the Southwest to the Southeast, I'm finding out that's a much bigger deal out here, and that most animals in rescue, well, I won't say most, but a lot of animals, a lot of dogs that have been rescued are heartworm positive and have to go through treatment before they can be adopted. So I want to discuss heartworms with you on Thursday. Until then, have a great week, and you know where to find me if you have any questions. Bye-bye.